16-year-old Destiny Johnson stared at the expensive leather wallet in her hands, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. She stood outside Chicago's Northwestern Memorial Hospital, still wearing her wrinkled McDonald's uniform from the morning shift. The wallet felt heavy, almost too heavy. When she opened it, her eyes widened in disbelief. Stack after stack of crisp $100 bills, more money than she'd ever seen in her entire life. Her grandmother was upstairs in the cancer ward right now. Surgery was postponed again because they couldn't afford the $8,000 deposit. This money in her hands could save everything: her grandmother's life, her dreams of college, years of struggling to survive. The name on the driver's license meant nothing to her. Michael Chen, age 45. Just some rich guy from a fancy suburb. But what she chose to do next would change both their lives forever. She had no idea she was about to discover the most beautiful secret imaginable. For Destiny, every day was a battle just to survive, but she never let it kill her spirit. The alarm screamed at 4:30 in the morning, just like it had every day for the past 2 years. Destiny rolled out of the narrow bed she shared with her grandmother in their cramped studio apartment on Chicago's South Side. The floorboards creaked as she tiptoed around, careful not to wake Grandma Pearl. Their place in Englewood was small enough that you could see everything from the front door. Kitchen table with one wobbly leg, couch that folded out into Grandma Pearl's bed, tiny bathroom with a shower that only gave hot water on good days. The walls were thin enough that they could hear every argument, every cry, every struggle from their neighbors. Destiny had lived here since she was 10, when the house fire took everything: her parents, their home, her childhood. Grandma Pearl stepped in without hesitation, even though her Social Security barely covered rent for one person, let alone two. "Morning, baby girl," Grandma Pearl whispered from the couch, already awake despite Destiny's efforts to be quiet. "Go back to sleep, Grandma. It's still dark outside." But Pearl Johnson had been waking up early her whole life. 40 years as a seamstress before arthritis twisted her fingers too badly to hold a needle. Now 73, she spent her days managing pain and trying to hide how worried she was about money. Destiny grabbed her McDonald's visor and headed into the pre-dawn darkness. 6 blocks to the restaurant, walking fast through empty streets that weren't safe even in daylight. She'd learned to keep her head down, earbuds in, moving with purpose. The McDonald's on State Street opened at 5 a.m. for the morning commuters. Construction workers grabbing coffee before job sites. Office workers in expensive suits rushing to catch trains downtown, 2 different worlds colliding over hash browns and coffee. "Morning, sunshine," called Marcus, the manager, as Destiny clocked in. "You're on the register today." She tied her apron and took her position behind the counter. Smile ready, voice bright. Most customers barely looked at her, just mumbled their orders while checking phones. But Destiny noticed everything. The businessman who always said please and thank you, the construction worker who left his change in the tip jar, the nurse who worked night shifts and looked as tired as Destiny felt. By 8:45, the morning rush was over. Destiny had 20 minutes to catch the bus to school, still smelling like French fry oil despite washing her hands 3 times. Lincoln Park High School was a 40-minute bus ride from Englewood. A world away from her neighborhood, full of kids whose biggest worry was getting the right college acceptance letter. Destiny sat in the back of every class, keeping quiet about where she lived or why she sometimes fell asleep during lectures. Her grades were perfect. 4.0 GPA despite working 25 hours a week. Despite staying up until midnight doing homework by the light of her phone when the electricity got cut off. Despite eating lunch in empty classrooms because she couldn't afford cafeteria food. "Destiny, can you stay after class?" Mrs. Rodriguez, her AP history teacher, asked as students filed out. "I have to get to work, Mrs. Rodriguez." "This will just take a minute." She pulled out a stack of college brochures. "Northwestern has an excellent nursing program, full scholarships available for students like you." Students like you, code for poor black, working 2 jobs. Destiny appreciated the intention, but she'd already done the math. Even with a full ride, there were application fees, housing deposits, books, life expenses that scholarships didn't cover. "I'll think about it," Destiny said, taking the brochures she knew she'd never use. The afternoon shift at Pock's Grocery was different from McDonald's. Slower pace, but harder on her feet, stocking shelves, running registers, helping elderly customers carry bags. Mr. Pak paid her under the table $9 an hour because official employment would mess up Grandma Pearl's benefits. She got home around 10:30 most nights. Grandma Pearl always waited up pretending to watch TV while really making sure Destiny made it home safe. "How was school, baby?" "Good. Mrs. Rodriguez thinks I should apply to Northwestern." Grandma Pearl's eyes lit up. "Northwestern? That's a really good school." "We can't afford it, Grandma. You know that. Don't you worry about money? Worry about being the nurse your mama would have been proud of?" Destiny's mother had been a nurse at Cook County Hospital before the fire. Everyone said she had gentle hands and a gift for making people feel better. Destiny kept her mother's stethoscope in the drawer next to their bed, wrapped in tissue paper like a treasure. But dreams didn't pay for Grandma Pearl's diabetes medication. Dreams didn't cover the rent when Social Security came up short. Dreams didn't fix the fact that Grandma Pearl had been losing weight and sleeping more, even though she tried to hide it. The medical bills started piling up 6 months ago. Doctor visits, blood tests, the word cancer spoken in hushed voices when they thought Destiny wasn't listening. Then the surgery was scheduled and postponed twice because they couldn't afford the deposit. Late at night, Destiny did calculations on the back of old homework. Rent, $600. Utilities, $200 when they were lucky. Groceries, $150 if she was careful. Grandma Pearl's medication, $300 total, more than they had. She prayed every night. Not for wealth or luxury, just for enough. Enough to keep Grandma Pearl healthy. Enough to maybe someday become the nurse her mother never got to be. But morning always came too soon, and the math never changed. The call that shattered Destiny's world came during her lunch break on the worst possible day. Destiny sat alone in an empty classroom, eating a peanut butter sandwich she'd packed from home. Her flip phone buzzed against the plastic desk. Unknown number, but something made her answer. "Is this Destiny Johnson?" The voice was professional, serious. "Yes, who is this?" "This is Sarah from Northwestern Memorial Hospital. I'm calling about Pearl Johnson. She's been admitted to our emergency department." The sandwich turned to cardboard in Destiny's mouth. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She collapsed at the senior center this morning. We need you to come in immediately." Destiny was already running down the hallway, grabbing her backpack from her locker. "I'll be right there. Please don't. Just please take care of her." The bus ride felt like hours. Destiny stared out the window, watching Chicago blur past, her mind racing. Grandma Pearl had seemed tired this morning, but she always seemed tired lately. Had Destiny missed something? Some sign that today would be different? Northwestern Memorial Hospital towered over the medical district like a glass and steel fortress. Destiny had walked past it hundreds of times on her way to the McDonald's, never imagining she'd need to go inside. The lobby was all marble and fountains, filled with people in expensive clothes discussing treatment options she couldn't afford. "I'm here for Pearl Johnson," she told the information desk, out of breath from running. The volunteer, a kind-faced woman in her 60s, checked her computer. "She's in oncology, 5th floor. Take the elevators to your right." Oncology, the cancer ward. The word hit Destiny like a physical blow. The elevator ride to the 5th floor was the longest minute of her life. When the doors opened, she was hit by the smell of antiseptic and the quiet hum of machines keeping people alive. Destiny approached the nurse's station, trying to look older than 16, trying to look like she belonged in this place of expensive healing. "Pearl Johnson?" The nurse looked up from her charts. "Room 512. Are you family?" "I'm her granddaughter, her only family." Room 512 was a semi-private room with 2 beds. Grandma Pearl lay in the one by the window, looking smaller than Destiny had ever seen her. Tubes ran from her arms to machines that beeped steadily. Her eyes were closed, but she opened them when Destiny touched her hand. "There's my baby girl," Grandma Pearl whispered, her voice weaker than usual. "Grandma, what happened?" "The senior center said you collapsed." "Just got a little dizzy. These doctors are making a big fuss over nothing." But Destiny could see it wasn't nothing. Grandma Pearl's skin had a gray tint. Her breathing was shallow. The machines around her bed showed numbers Destiny didn't understand but knew weren't good. Dr. Martinez appeared in the doorway, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and tired shoulders. "Miss Johnson? I'm Dr. Martinez, your grandmother's oncologist. Can we speak privately?" They stepped into the hallway. Dr. Martinez spoke gently but directly. "Your grandmother's cancer has progressed faster than we expected. She needs surgery immediately." "Surgery? How soon?" "Today, within the next few hours. We've been trying to schedule this for weeks, but we couldn't afford the deposit." Destiny finished the sentence, shame burning in her chest. "The surgery will cost approximately $40,000. Insurance will cover most of it, but we need an $8,000 deposit before we can proceed." $8,000. Destiny had $340 in her savings account. Everything she'd managed to save from 2 years of working, originally meant for college application fees. "Doctor, what happens if we can't pay?" Dr. Martinez paused, choosing her words carefully. "We can stabilize her for now, make her comfortable, but without the surgery—" She didn't need to finish. Destiny understood. Without surgery, Grandma Pearl would die. "How long do we have to decide?" "I can give you until 6 p.m. today. After that, if we don't have payment authorization, we'll have to move her to palliative care." Destiny checked the clock on the wall. 2:15 p.m., less than 4 hours to find $8,000 she didn't have. She sat with Grandma Pearl for an hour, holding her hand, trying not to cry. Grandma Pearl dozed fitfully, occasionally waking to ask if Destiny was okay, as if she wasn't the one lying in a hospital bed fighting for her life. At 3:30, Destiny made the hardest decision of her life. She would withdraw every penny from her savings account. It wasn't enough, not even close, but it was a start. Maybe the hospital would let her make payments. Maybe there was financial aid she didn't know about. She kissed Grandma Pearl's forehead. "I'll be right back. I'm going to fix this." Grandma Pearl squeezed her hand weakly. "Don't you worry about money, baby girl. God's will be done." But Destiny wasn't ready to accept God's will if it meant losing the only family she had left. The bus to downtown took 20 minutes. 20 minutes to figure out how to save a life with $340 and the kind of desperation that made good people consider terrible things. As she hurried back to the hospital with her meager savings, Destiny had no idea she was about to make the most important decision of her life. The downtown Bank of America branch felt like enemy territory. Marble floors, security guards, customers in business suits discussing investments worth more than Destiny would see in a lifetime. She approached the teller window with her crumpled withdrawal slip, requesting every dollar from her savings account. $340, the teller said, counting out mostly 20s and 10s. "Closing the account completely?" "Yes." The word came out as a whisper. 2 years of work. Every dream of college. Gone in an instant. Destiny folded the bills carefully and put them in her McDonald's uniform pocket. It felt pathetic. $8,000 needed, $340 in hand, but she had to try something. The walk back toward the hospital took her through Chicago's medical district. Glass towers full of specialists and cutting-edge equipment, valet stands where luxury cars dropped off patients who never worried about deposits or payment plans. Everything about this place reminded her that she didn't belong. She was 3 blocks from Northwestern Memorial when she saw it. An expensive leather wallet lay on the sidewalk near the bus stop, partially hidden under a bench. Destiny almost walked past, but something made her stop. Maybe it was the quality of the leather, so much nicer than anything she'd ever owned. Maybe it was the way the afternoon sun caught the gold monogramming. She looked around. The street was mostly empty except for a few people waiting at the bus stop, all absorbed in their phones. No one seemed to be searching for anything lost. Destiny picked up the wallet. It was heavy, heavier than any wallet should be. The leather was buttery soft, expensive. Monogrammed initials, MC. She opened it carefully. Her breath caught in her throat. Stack after stack of $100 bills held together with gold money clips. She counted quickly, her hands shaking. 500, 1,000, 2,000. Her heart hammered as she kept counting. $50,000 in cash. $50,000. More than 6 times what she needed for Grandma Pearl's surgery. The driver's license read, Michael Chen, age 45. Address in Winnetka, one of the wealthiest suburbs in Illinois. Credit cards that looked different from any she'd seen, heavy, metal, with names like Centurion and Reserve. Destiny stood frozen on the sidewalk, the wallet trembling in her hands. Around her, Chicago moved at its usual pace. Cars passing, people walking. No one pays attention to a teenage girl holding someone else's fortune. She thought about Grandma Pearl lying in that hospital bed, machines keeping track of her failing body. Dr. Martinez checked her watch, waiting for payment that would never come. The transition to palliative care, the gentle questions about funeral arrangements, this money could save everything. Grandma Pearl's life, Destiny's future. They could pay for the surgery, for follow-up treatments, for all the medication needed for recovery. There would even be enough left for college, for a life beyond surviving day-to-day. No one would ever know. The owner was obviously rich enough that $50,000 might not even matter to him. He probably had more money in his checking account than most people saw in a lifetime. Destiny closed her eyes and saw her mother's face. Heard Grandma Pearl's voice from 1,000 bedtime stories. Your character is what you do when nobody's watching, baby girl. When doing right is hard, that's when it matters most. She opened her eyes and pulled out her phone. Battery at 15%, but enough to make one call. Her fingers shook as she Googled Michael Chen Winnetka. The results made her gasp. Michael Chen, CEO and founder of Chen Technologies. Net worth, $4.2 billion. One of the richest men in America. A billionaire's wallet. $50,000 in cash that probably meant nothing to him, everything to her. Destiny scrolled until she found the Chen Technologies main number. Her thumb hovered over the call button for 30 seconds. One choice would save Grandma Pearl. The other would honor everything she'd been taught about right and wrong. She pressed call. Chen Technologies, how may I help you? The receptionist's voice was crisp, professional. I found something that belongs to Mr. Chen, his wallet. A pause. You found Mr. Chen's wallet? Yes. I'm at the corner of Superior and Fairbanks, near the medical district. Hold, please. The hold music felt like it lasted forever. Destiny's battery dropped to 12%. She watched people pass by, each absorbed in their own lives, their own problems. None of them are facing the choice between survival and honesty. This is Michael Chen. The voice was deep, tired, but kind. Mr. Chen, I'm Destiny Johnson. I found your wallet. You found my wallet, and you're calling to return it. It wasn't a question. Something in his tone suggested surprise, as if this wasn't the call he'd expected. Yes, sir. It's got your driver's license and, well, quite a bit of money. Where are you exactly? Corner of Superior and Fairbanks. I was heading to Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Another pause. The hospital? Is everything all right? Destiny's voice cracked slightly. My grandmother is there. She needs surgery, but we can't afford it. She stopped herself. This wasn't his problem. Stay exactly where you are. Don't move. I'm sending a car. Mr. Chen, you don't need to. Yes, I do. Stay there. The call ended. Destiny stared at her phone, processing what had just happened. She'd called a billionaire to return his wallet, and he was sending a car for her. Part of her wanted to run. Part of her wanted to disappear into the crowd and pretend this never happened. Instead, she sat on the bench and waited, clutching the wallet like a lifeline. 15 minutes later, a black Mercedes sedan pulled up to the curb. The driver, a man in his 50s wearing a simple gray suit, stepped out and approached her. Miss Johnson? Mr. Chen sent me to bring you to him. Destiny had never been in a car this nice. Leather seats that felt like butter. Classical music playing softly. The driver was kind, asking about her grandmother, expressing genuine concern for someone he'd never met. Mr. Chen is a good man, he said as they drove through downtown. You did the right thing by calling. The car pulled up to Chen Technologies Tower, a gleaming 47-story building in the Loop. Destiny had walked past it hundreds of times, never imagining she'd go inside. The lobby was intimidating. Marble floors, modern art, people in expensive suits moving with purpose. Security guards checked badges, everything screamed money and power. The driver escorted her to a private elevator that went directly to the 47th floor. Mr. Chen's office, he explained. When the elevator doors opened, Destiny stepped into a reception area that felt like something from a movie. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. art that probably cost more than her apartment building. "Miss Johnson?" A woman in her 30s, impeccably dressed, approached with a warm smile. "Mr. Chen is waiting for you." When the office doors opened to reveal the most powerful man she'd ever met, Destiny realized this was no ordinary wallet return. Michael Chen stood behind a massive oak desk overlooking downtown Chicago. Mid-40s, kind eyes behind glasses, wearing a simple sweater that probably cost more than Destiny made in a month. His office was elegant but warm. Family photos, books, a coffee mug that said, "World's okayest dad." "Miss Johnson?" He walked around the desk to greet her personally. "Thank you for coming." Destiny held out the wallet with both hands. "Here's your wallet, Mr. Chen." He opened it slowly, counting the money in front of her. $50,000. Every bill is exactly as I left it. He looked at her with amazement. "Do you understand how remarkable this is? I just did what anyone should do. Anyone should, but very few actually would." He gestured to the leather chairs, especially someone facing a crisis. Destiny sat on the edge of the chair. "It's not your problem, sir. Your grandmother's surgery, tell me about it." Against her better judgment, Destiny found herself talking about Grandma Pearl, cancer, working 2 jobs and still coming up short. The deadline is getting closer every minute. Michael listened without interrupting. When she finished, he pulled out a checkbook. $8,000 for the surgery deposit, he said, writing quickly, and another $10,000 for follow-up care. "No!" Destiny stood up fast. "Absolutely not. Miss Johnson?" "Mr. Chen, I returned your wallet because it was right. Not because I wanted anything. But your grandmother will get her surgery somehow. We'll figure it out." Michael set down his pen. "You're turning down the chance to save the person you love most." Destiny's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. "If I take your money now, everything I was taught about integrity means nothing. Your grandmother raised you well. She's the only family I have, but she'd rather die than have me compromise my values for money." Michael was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he pulled out a business card, not the standard company card. This one was heavier, cream-colored, with gold lettering. "I want you to have this," he wrote on the back. "My personal number. If you ever need anything, you call me." She took the card reluctantly. "Why are you being so kind to a stranger?" "Because strangers who return $50,000 are rarer than you think." His smile seemed sad. "And because your grandmother is lucky to have you." "I should get back into the hospital. James will drive you." At the elevator, Michael shook her hand again. "What you did today, choosing honesty when dishonesty would have solved everything, that says who you are." "It says how I was raised." "Same thing." The elevator doors closed. In her pocket was a business card that felt important. In her other pocket, $340 that wouldn't save Grandma Pearl. But riding down 47 floors, Destiny felt something unexpected. Hope. She couldn't explain why. Nothing had changed. Grandma Pearl was still dying. They still couldn't afford surgery. The deadline was still approaching. But something about Michael Chen's reaction, the way he'd looked at her when she refused his money, made her believe that doing right might actually matter. The car ride back to Northwestern Memorial gave her 20 minutes to figure out what came next. 20 minutes to turn $340 into $8,000. 20 minutes to perform a miracle. But when she walked back into the hospital, the financial counselor was waiting with news that would change everything. "Miss Johnson, I have incredible news. An anonymous donor has covered all surgery costs." Destiny's heart stopped. "All of them?" "Everything. Your grandmother's surgery is fully paid for." She immediately knew who the anonymous donor was, despite his promise to respect her refusal. Michael Chen had saved Grandma Pearl's life anyway. Over the next week, Destiny began noticing things that seemed too coincidental to be random. The surgery was a success. Grandma Pearl recovered faster than anyone expected, moved to a private room in something called the Linda Chen Memorial Wing. The nurses kept mentioning how lucky they were to have the best oncology team suddenly available. "Strange how things work out," Dr. Martinez said during rounds. "Your grandmother's case was reviewed by our top specialists. Usually there's a waiting list for this level of care." Destiny nodded, fingering Michael Chen's business card in her pocket. She'd tried calling his number twice, but couldn't bring herself to press send. What would she say? Thank you for ignoring my wishes. Thank you for saving my grandmother's life. Back at work, weird things kept happening. The McDonald's manager announced they'd received an anonymous donation to upgrade the kitchen equipment. Some local businessman wants to support working families, Marcus explained. Even set up a college fund for employees. At school, Mrs. Rodriguez pulled Destiny aside with news about a new scholarship program. It's specifically for students showing exceptional character, she said, handing over applications. Full ride to Northwestern's nursing program. The donor specifically requested students from your demographic. Students from your demographic. Young, black, working multiple jobs to survive. That evening, Destiny researched Michael Chen more thoroughly. Chen Technologies was worth billions, but what caught her attention was his philanthropy. The Chen Foundation focused on healthcare and education, with a particular emphasis on helping disadvantaged students. Recent news articles mentioned increased local investment in Chicago's medical district, a new community health clinic, expanded scholarship programs, funding for state-of-the-art equipment at Northwestern Memorial. "Grandma, look at this," Destiny said, showing Pearl the laptop she'd borrowed from school. "This guy has donated hundreds of millions to hospitals." Grandma Pearl studied the screen, squinting at Michael's photo from a charity gala. He looks familiar." "Familiar how?" "Can't place it." "But something about his face." Pearl shook her head. "Probably just seeing things. All these rich folks look the same to me." But Destiny noticed how Grandma Pearl kept staring at the photo, her expression puzzled and thoughtful. The business card felt heavier each day. The cream-colored paper was expensive, real quality. She'd Googled the address. Chen Technologies occupied an entire building downtown. His personal cell number was written in blue ink, careful handwriting. At the bottom of the card, in small print, was something she hadn't noticed before. "In loving memory of Linda Chen, 1978 to 2020. Linda Chen, the same name as the hospital wing where Grandma Pearl was recovering. Destiny stared at the card, pieces of a puzzle she didn't understand starting to form a picture she couldn't quite see. Who was Linda Chen? And why did Grandma Pearl look at Michael's photo like she was trying to remember something important? 3 weeks after returning the wallet, Destiny received a phone call that would reveal the true magnitude of what she'd unknowingly set in motion. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Destiny was helping Grandma Pearl with her physical therapy exercises when her phone rang. Unknown number, but something made her answer. "Miss Johnson, this is Michael Chen. I hope I'm not calling too early." Destiny's heart skipped. "No, sir. I'm just surprised to hear from you. I was wondering if you and your grandmother might join me for lunch today. There's something important I need to discuss with you both. Is everything okay? Did I do something wrong?" "Quite the opposite. You did something very right. Can I pick you up at noon?" Destiny looked at Grandma Pearl, who was listening intently. "Hold on 1 second, Mr. Chen." She covered the phone. "He wants to take us to lunch. Says he needs to tell us something important." Grandma Pearl's eyes widened. "That nice man who paid for my surgery? You know it was him? Baby girl, I've been around long enough to know when someone's being an angel in disguise. Tell him yes." At noon exactly, the black Mercedes pulled up outside their building. But this time, Michael Chen stepped out personally. He wore simple jeans and a Northwestern University sweatshirt, looking more like a professor than a billionaire. "Mrs. Johnson." He helped Grandma Pearl into the car with gentle care. "You look much better than the last time I saw you. You visited me in the hospital?" Grandma Pearl studied his face again with that puzzled expression. "Briefly, while you were recovering from surgery." The restaurant was elegant but comfortable, with a private dining room overlooking the lake. Michael had ordered soul food, fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens. "I figured you might prefer real food to fancy cuisine," he said. As they ate, Michael asked about Grandma Pearl's recovery, about Destiny's school, about their lives. He listened like their stories mattered to him personally. Finally, he set down his fork and looked directly at Grandma Pearl. "Mrs. Johnson, do you remember a young nursing student named Linda Huang? This would have been about 40 years ago at Northwestern." Grandma Pearl dropped her napkin. "Linda? My little Linda from nursing school?" Michael's eyes filled with tears. "She was your little Linda. But she became my wife. The silence in the room was complete. Destiny looked back and forth between them, not understanding what was happening. "Your wife," Grandma Pearl whispered. "You married my Linda." "I did, for 22 beautiful years until cancer took her 2 years ago." Destiny's mind raced. "Wait, Linda Chen, the hospital wing is named after your wife?" Michael nodded. "The Linda Chen Memorial Cancer Wing. Linda died of the same cancer your grandmother just beat." Grandma Pearl was crying now, quiet tears sliding down her cheeks. "Tell me about her. Tell me she was happy." "She was extraordinary. Head of oncology at Northwestern, saved thousands of lives over her career. And she talked about you constantly." "She remembered me?" Michael pulled out his phone, showed them a photo. A beautiful Asian woman in scrubs, smiling beside a hospital bed. "She kept this picture of you two from nursing school graduation in her wallet for 35 years. Destiny stared at the photo. A young Grandma Pearl, arm around a shy-looking Asian girl in a cap and gown. "Grandma, you never told me about Linda." "I helped a lot of students over the years," Pearl said softly. "But Linda was special. She was so scared, so alone. Other students weren't always kind to her." Michael's voice was thick with emotion. "Linda told me the whole story, how you became her study partner when no one else would. How you defended her from students who made cruel comments. How you taught her that nursing wasn't just about medical knowledge, it was about loving people through their worst moments." "She was so smart," Grandma Pearl remembered. "I just needed someone to believe in her." "Mrs. Johnson, Linda graduated valedictorian because of your help. She became one of the most respected oncologists in Chicago because you gave her confidence. Every patient she ever saved, she saved them using the compassion you taught her." Destiny was crying now, too, understanding beginning to dawn. "So when I returned your wallet, when you returned my wallet, mentioning you were at Northwestern's oncology department, I knew immediately this might be Pearl's family. I've been looking for your grandmother for 2 years." "Looking for me?" Grandma Pearl asked. Michael reached into his jacket and pulled out a sealed envelope, aged and yellowed. "Linda made me promise that if anything happened to her, I would find Pearl Johnson and give her this." He handed the letter to Grandma Pearl with shaking hands. "She wrote this 3 days before she died." Grandma Pearl opened the envelope carefully, unfolding pages covered in careful handwriting. She began reading aloud, her voice breaking. "Dear Mrs. Johnson, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. But I need you to know that you saved my life in every way a person can be saved." The letter continued. "You saw something in a scared immigrant girl that she couldn't see in herself. You taught me that nursing isn't about procedures. It's about loving people through their darkest hours. Every patient I ever helped, I helped them the way you showed me. You made me the nurse I became, and the woman Michael fell in love with. You gave me confidence to pursue my dreams, courage to care for others, and wisdom to know that healing starts with the heart." Grandma Pearl's voice was barely a whisper now. "Mrs. Johnson, you were the most important teacher I ever had. Please let Michael take care of you the way you took care of me. With love, Linda." All three of them sat in silence, tears flowing freely. Finally, Michael spoke. "Destiny, when you returned my wallet in that storm, when you chose honesty over desperate need, you completed a circle that started 40 years ago. Your grandmother saved Linda's life. Linda saved thousands of patients' lives. And now, Linda's legacy gets to save your grandmother's life." "It's all connected," Destiny whispered. "It's all connected," Michael agreed. "And it all started with the same character your grandmother showed Linda, that you showed me. The courage to do what's right, even when it's hard." What Michael offered next would either fulfill Destiny's wildest dreams or overwhelm her completely. Michael reached into his briefcase and pulled out a leather portfolio. "Pearl, Linda didn't just want me to find you to deliver that letter. She left very specific instructions about how to honor your impact on her life." He opened the portfolio, revealing official documents with gold seals and legal letterhead. "The Linda Chen Foundation for Nursing Education. We want you to be our first honorary board advisor." Grandma Pearl stared at the papers. "Michael, I don't understand." "Linda established a $50 million endowment specifically to help nursing students like she once was. Students who are struggling, who feel alone, who need someone to believe in them the way you believed in her." He spread out the documents on the table. We want you to help design mentorship programs. Teach other nurses how to spot students who need guidance. Share the wisdom that shaped Linda's entire career. Destiny leaned forward, reading over her grandmother's shoulder. The numbers were staggering. Monthly advisory stipend, $10,000. Healthcare coverage, lifetime, comprehensive. Housing allowance, enough for a beautiful apartment near Northwestern. This is too much, Grandma Pearl said, pushing the papers back. I can't accept this. You're not accepting charity, Michael replied gently. You're accepting a job. Linda was very specific. She wanted you actively involved in training the next generation of nurses. Your arthritis prevents you from bedside care, but it doesn't prevent you from teaching others how to care. Destiny's head was spinning. Mr. Chen, what about me? I mean, this is wonderful for Grandma Pearl, but I still need to figure out college and… Destiny, Linda thought about you too. Even though she never met you, she knew Pearl's family would inherit her character. Michael pulled out another set of documents. Full scholarship to Northwestern's nursing program. Housing, books, living expenses, everything covered. A nursing scholarship? Not just any nursing scholarship. You'll be the first recipient of the Pearl Johnson Character in Nursing Award. 4 years of school, plus graduate studies if you choose. The only requirement is that you maintain the values your grandmother taught you. Grandma Pearl was crying again. She remembered me that well, after all these years? Pearl, Linda said you didn't just teach her nursing skills. You taught her how to see people as individuals, not just medical cases. How to listen not just to what patients say, but to what they can't say. How to heal with presence, not just procedures. Michael's voice grew stronger, more passionate. Every day for 22 years, Linda talked about the woman who changed her life. She used your methods to train hundreds of nurses. She saved lives using the compassion you taught her. Your influence has already touched thousands of people you've never met. I was just being kind, Pearl whispered. Exactly. And Linda wanted to build an entire foundation around that kindness, teaching other people how to be just kind the way you were. Destiny looked at the scholarship papers, hardly believing what she was reading. This covers everything? Really everything? Everything. Including a study abroad program in your junior year, internships at top hospitals, and guaranteed placement in Northwestern's graduate program. Linda believed that nurses with character should have every opportunity to excel. But why me specifically? You don't even know if I'll be a good nurse. Michael smiled. Destiny. 3 weeks ago, you had a choice between saving your dying grandmother and maintaining your integrity. You chose integrity, even knowing it might cost you everything. That tells me exactly what kind of nurse you'll be. Grandma Pearl was reading through the foundation documents carefully. Michael, this says I'd be teaching at Northwestern. Twice a week, working with first-year nursing students. The Pearl Johnson method of compassionate care education. We want to make your approach to mentorship part of the standard curriculum. The Pearl Johnson method? Linda documented everything you taught her. Every conversation, every piece of advice, every way you showed her how to connect with patients. It's all here. He pulled out a thick binder. We've been developing this curriculum for 2 years, waiting to find you. Destiny flipped through the pages, seeing her grandmother's wisdom translated into lesson plans and teaching modules. Grandma, look at this. How to recognize students in crisis. Building confidence through positive reinforcement. The importance of seeing each patient as someone's beloved family member. You wrote all this down? Pearl asked Michael. Linda wrote it down. Every night for 20 years, she journaled about her work, about the patients she helped, the students she mentored, the lives she saved, and in every entry, she credited you with teaching her how to care. Michael leaned forward, his expression serious. This isn't charity and it isn't guilt money. This is completing a mission that Linda started but couldn't finish. She believed that nursing education was missing something crucial, the human element that you taught her naturally. What if I'm not smart enough to teach at a university? Pearl worried. Pearl, you don't need a PhD to teach kindness. You need a heart like yours. These students will learn medical procedures from their textbooks. They'll learn how to be healers from you. Destiny looked at her grandmother, seeing decades of struggle and sacrifice in her weathered hands. Grandma, this is your chance to help thousands of nurses become better caregivers. And your chance Michael added, to continue your mother's legacy while honoring your grandmother's teachings. 3 generations of healing, all connected through Linda's gratitude. Grandma Pearl was quiet for a long moment, studying the papers, the photos of Linda, the scholarship documents that would change their lives forever. Finally, she looked up at Michael. Linda really wanted this? It was her dying wish. She said finding you and honoring your influence was more important than any building or equipment donation, because buildings heal spaces, but teachers like you heal people. Grandma Pearl reached across the table and took Michael's hand. Then we accept. For Linda. 6 months later, the ripple effects of one act of honesty had transformed not just 3 lives, but an entire community. Grandma Pearl stood in front of 20 first-year nursing students at Northwestern University, her weathered hands gesturing as she spoke. That scared little girl became one of the finest doctors this hospital ever saw because someone took time to see her potential. The classroom was in the new Pearl Johnson Center for Compassionate Care. Students called it Grandma Pearl's classroom, and the waiting list for her mentorship sessions stretched for months. The Pearl Johnson method isn't complicated, she continued. You look at each patient like they're your own family. You listen with your heart, not just your ears, and you remember that healing starts with making people feel seen. In the back, Destiny took notes even though she'd heard this lesson dozens of times. Now a sophomore at Northwestern, she maintained a perfect GPA while working part-time at the foundation. Her apartment near campus was the first stable home she'd known since childhood. The Linda Chen Foundation had awarded 200 nursing scholarships in 6 months, with Grandma Pearl personally interviewing every candidate. Her ability to spot struggling students had become legendary. She saved my academic career, said Marcus Williams, a second-year student from the South Side. I was ready to drop out. Grandma Pearl got me housing assistance, but more than that, she believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Hospitals reported dramatic improvements. Nurses trained with the Pearl Johnson method showed higher job satisfaction, better patient communication, and stronger advocacy skills. Patient care scores improved by 25%. The nursing school dropout rate fell by 45%. Dr. Martinez, now Director of Clinical Partnerships, was amazed. We're seeing measurable differences in patient outcomes. These nurses show more empathy and stronger clinical skills. The media attention had been intense. Good Morning America featured their story. The Chicago Tribune ran a front-page article titled, "The Wallet That Changed Healthcare." But the real impact was in the numbers. 500 nursing students mentored personally by Grandma Pearl. 15 new scholarship programs modeled after the foundation. 3 hospitals adopted the Pearl Johnson method as standard training. The foundation now operates in 12 cities. I spent 40 years thinking I was just a seamstress, Pearl told a conference of nursing educators. It turns out I was preparing to be a teacher all along. The community where Destiny grew up saw changes too. The foundation opened a health clinic in Englewood, staffed by Northwestern students doing clinical rotations. The McDonald's where Destiny worked received a grant for employee GED programs. Full circle, Destiny told Michael during their monthly check-ins. The neighborhood that made me strong enough to return your wallet now benefits from what came after. Michael had found healing through honoring Linda's wishes. She always said her legacy wouldn't be the patients she saved directly, but the nurses she trained to save others. Through Pearl, that legacy multiplies exponentially. The numbers were staggering. Original wallet, $50,000. Foundation impact in first year, $100 million distributed. Lives directly touched. Over 5,000 patients cared for by Pearl Johnson method-trained nurses. But Grandma Pearl measured success differently. Every student who learns to see patients as people, that's Linda's gift. Every family who feels heard in their worst moment, that's the wallet coming full circle. Destiny's success opened incredible doors. Research opportunities at Mayo Clinic, internship offers at Johns Hopkins, invitations to speak at medical conferences about character and clinical excellence. 3 generations of healing, she told the audience. My grandmother taught compassion, my mother practiced it, and I'm learning to pass it on. The Pearl Johnson Center had become a destination for nursing educators worldwide. The simple truth that kindness could be taught had revolutionized nursing education across the country. The local impact was equally dramatic. Crime rates in Destiny's old neighborhood dropped 20%. High school graduation rates increased 30%. The community clinic served 2,000 patients in 6 months, all receiving care from nurses trained in Pearl's methods. Character creates character, Michael observed, watching Pearl work with a particularly struggling student. One act of integrity 50 years ago shaped Linda. Linda's gratitude shaped this foundation. Now Pearl's wisdom shapes hundreds of future nurses. As Destiny prepared for her final years of nursing school, she carried the weight of thousands watching her journey. But mostly she carried Grandma Pearl's voice. Just be kind, baby girl. Everything good flows from there. The wallet that started it all sat framed in Michael's office, a reminder that sometimes the smallest choices create the biggest changes. 1 year after finding that wallet, Destiny was about to experience the most beautiful moment of all. The graduation ceremony for Grandma Pearl's first mentorship class was held in Linda Chen Memorial Auditorium. All 20 students she'd guided passed their state boards on first attempt, a program record. "I was just doing what felt right," Pearl whispered when they announced the statistics. "That's what made you perfect," Michael replied from beside her. As each graduate crossed the stage, they paused to hug Grandma Pearl. These young nurses would care for thousands of patients, all carrying forward her compassion. The ceremony's highlight came when Northwestern's president made a surprise announcement. "Today we dedicate our newest building to someone who taught us that nursing's heart isn't in textbooks." The curtain dropped, revealing the Pearl Johnson Hall of Compassionate Care. Pearl stared at her name carved in stone, tears streaming. "I was just being kind." "Exactly. Now kindness has a permanent home." After graduation, a nervous student approached Pearl. "Mrs. Johnson, I almost quit last semester. You said nursing was loving people through hard moments. Yesterday, I saved my first life, exactly how you taught me." Pearl realized her impact had multiplied beyond imagination. Every mentored student would help thousands of patients, just like Linda helped thousands because of Pearl's original kindness 40 years ago. Michael presented a leather-bound book, letters from Linda's former patients spanning 20 years. Hundreds of thank you notes from people Linda helped, each mentioning her extraordinary compassion. "These all trace back to you," Michael explained. "Every life Linda saved, every family she comforted. It started with what you taught her." Destiny, preparing for senior year, made her promise. "Grandma Pearl, I'll teach every nurse I work with what you taught me, so your love keeps spreading forever." The ceremony ended with a photo. Pearl the teacher, Linda the healer, present in spirit, Michael the grateful husband, and Destiny the future nurse. 4 lives forever connected through compassion. "Sometimes one small act of love changes the whole world," Pearl said, looking at her building. That evening, Destiny found herself back at the corner where she'd discovered the wallet. She thought about that desperate moment, choosing integrity over survival. The foundation now helps 1,000 nursing students annually. The Pearl Johnson method was taught in 50 nursing schools. Thousands of patients received better care because one teenager chose honesty when dishonesty would have solved everything. Pearl's final words echoed, "Your character is what you do when nobody's watching, baby girl." But someone was always watching, and sometimes choosing right in your darkest moment lights up the entire world. Destiny's tears weren't from sadness. They were from discovering that her grandmother's small acts of kindness had saved thousands of lives she never knew about. That one moment of honesty in a desperate hour didn't just save Grandma Pearl's life. It revealed a legacy of love stretching back 40 years, touching more people than either of them ever imagined. Sometimes the most important thing you'll ever do looks like the smallest choice: returning a wallet, helping a struggling student, choosing integrity when no one is watching. You never know whose life you're changing. You never know how far your kindness will travel through time. Right now, you're facing your own character tests, small decisions that reveal who you really are. The question isn't whether you'll be rewarded, it's whether you can look in the mirror knowing you did what was right. If this story reminded you that every act of love creates ripples you may never see, hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to know their kindness matters. Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for more proof that love always multiplies.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.